bad trade paperback flocking to the
I am joined by the amazing Allison O'Toole, Dan Price, Andre Owen, Fred Kennedy, Chip Zdarsky.
Chip, thanks for coming.
What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews, and tonight I'm joined by the amazing, the funny, and the sometimes very tear-inducing Kristian Herrera. Kristian, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on again. It's been a while. I'm happy to be back.
Absolutely, you're right. It has definitely been a while.
Yeah.
We haven't had you on, I want to say like a year, but you've been very busy. You've been making a lot of books, and of course now we're going to be talking about your newest book. We call them myths. But to start the show, that same easy question for anyone watching live now with us or in the future, can you let them know who exactly is Kristian Herrera?
Yeah, Kristian Herrera is a comic book writer who originally went to school for business and decided to say F that and make comics instead. But yeah, I enjoy all the fandoms. I'm a huge nerd. I have to be in comics, as you can tell from behind me. And I just want to make stories that are fun with people that I really like. That's what I just kind of keep doing. So
I love
hopefully
it.
Well.
Yes, I think so. Like as I've mentioned, proudly I will say that you have made me cry with your writing before. I look forward to it again, though. For those out there, do not worry. We Call You Myths probably won't do it to you, though it's very fun. So I guess where to start. To preface this, Kristian, can you explain your previous books, the type of stuff you like to write, and then we'll segue into what exactly We Call Them Myths is.
Yeah. I made the stupid decision of not sticking in one genre when I make stories. Like, I've made a superhero book called Sidekick for Hire, which was my big official series that I got to do. And I finished that last year. It was great. People really enjoyed it. They liked it. That was just a sidekick who was just bad at his job. And then I made another one, which was more of like a mystery kind of somber story about death called Prolong, which has made quite a few people cry, which is very tonally different.
What's the count at?
45, 46 last time.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I get emails every once in a while after conventions where they're like, yeah, I didn't cry at first, and then I was retelling the story, and then I started crying. I'm like, I'm going to count that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to count that. That's mine. But that was a fun one. And then I did like a few short stories, one of them through lesser known comics, which is Punk's Not Dead, which is just kind of like a horror-esque story, but very punk inspired. And then my new one right now, We Call Them Myths, with Colt Mastic. We're just making something weird and fun. That's the best way to describe it.
Love it. And you know what? It's definitely that. Doing what I do, as you know, as the readers will know, I've gone through a lot of different types of comics. I've come to like stuff that Konrad before Wednesday Night Reviews would have been like, what is this? It doesn't have a superhero anywhere in it. Why should I care? But yeah, it is something special. So I'm gonna bring up the let's see here if it's gonna be nice to me.
The cover of it.
There we go. Okay. How am I gonna work this so it works nice? I have an idea. But yes, so the cover for it is awesome. Actually, let's back it out. I am just in the Dropbox, so is there anything in here that I shouldn't be sharing with the public? Obviously, I'm not going to give a full view, but...
Nah, you're good. Like, I put the first few pages on the Kickstarter as well, so we could show those off as well.
Which is just totally live.
Yeah. Which just went live today, a few hours ago.
Yeah. How does that feel, by the way, having... God, that's your fourth?
It's my fifth official Kickstarter, because I did 4 for Sidekick for Hire, which luckily have all been successful.
Good book.
And then this one I just launched today, and so far it's been my strongest so far.
I will say so.
Yeah. So it's pretty sweet right now.
Good sir.
I'm almost halfway, and it's only been live since like 12:30 Eastern time.
So
Yeah.
we're 6.5 hours in. My math skills aren't that good, but I'm gonna say like 45% fulfilled.
Yeah,
52 back. There's 29 full days to go.
yeah.
My
So
man.
I kept telling everyone about it. And I'm like, you guys need to follow it. I got some limited stuff on there. I have like 2 days of early bird deals where people can get it a little bit cheaper. But yeah, this is one of the most confident. I was like texting Colton, the artist and co-creator, about it. He's like, dude, we're doing really well. And it was like $500 within like the first 30 minutes. I was like, yeah, this is really good.
That's
And so I was
amazing.
like, it's still going up. I'm like, okay, wow, crazy.
Well,
So,
not to, I'm not even gonna say the word, but looking good so far. Keep at it.
yes.
I hope this show helps. I hope someone out there texts it to somebody, tweets it, retweets it, blogs it, whatever, sends a link, and a whole bunch of people can go in and do their thing. So yeah,
I'm
you write a lot.
cautiously optimistic.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
As you should be. So you write sort of all over the place. You deal with a lot of genres. One of the things that I'll start with that struck me about We Call Them Myths is the fact that it's got a lot of really fun references, but also like almost maybe it's not slapstick, but very blatant jokes throughout that
Yeah.
are just fun. So I guess we'll start with the humor of it, because it is kind of a funny, weird series.
Yeah.
What made you want to go in this direction and tell a weirder, funny story? Well, not,
Yeah. It's weird calling a comic book funny, because sometimes if you call it funny, people are like, I'm not gonna really like it. But when Cole and I were first going back and forth about this, we knew we wanted to do it based off like cryptids or monsters and stuff like that. And at first it kind of started out like they were hunting them. I was like, I don't really like that idea. It goes too dark sometimes with those. And we kind of made a deal early on. I was like, you know what? It's got to be fun. If we're enjoying it, if I send him something and he just says, that's hilarious, then I'm like, cool, we're going to probably keep that into the story if it works for everything. But that's what we wanted to do. We just wanted to make it fun for us. If we're having fun, we hope other people would have just as much fun with it. That was kind of the idea. That, like, originally when it became the story became first, it was just 2 people. And then Colton texted me. He was like, hey, can one of them be a robot? And I was like, yeah, sure. Let me see what I can do. And I love this character because his name is Roscoe Roboter. And he's just like a former evil scientist henchman with a German accent and who's trying to be a good guy. And I was like, this is just fun. We just keep adding more layers and layers on it. And so it just, like, I love Men in Black. I love Nice Guys. I reference both of those movies as like inspiration for this. And that's what I kind of wanted to exude through the story.
Well, I think you nailed it. I think with Roscoe, one of my favorite things, and again, it's simple, it's effective, and I think it's fun storytelling. It's just the fact that the robot is maybe not such a good man, but it's directly referenced in the story. They sort of run with it, and it's that kind of, like I said, I don't know if the word slapstick, but that kind of bold-faced humor that I thought was really fun about this and different from you, at least in my experience. On the right here, though, in the shot, we have our other protagonist. Who's he, this dashing bearded gentleman?
So Sacramento Stone. That's the thing with a lot of these characters. We wanted, like, the agents were like, okay, they're gonna have like a normal, probably last name, but we've got to figure out what to do with their first name. And I was like, well, what if we just name them after like cities or towns? And so like each agent kind of has a different one like that. So that's kind of like the other thing. But it's nothing that we've explained in the story. That was just something for fun. So anytime we have a new agent introduced in like future issues, which I'm writing right now, they just have different names for it. But for Sacramento Stone, he was the character I wanted to put into it, that he's not the comedy relief. He's the one who's kind of he's the detective. He's the one who's
Mhm.
leading the investigation, and he's stuck with the robot because no one really wants to work with a robot was formerly owned by an evil scientist.
Yeah.
So nobody really wants to work with Sacramento because he's kind of a jerk. So they're like, all right, you two are stuck together.
I think you've played that, by the way, very well. The both of you, mind you, because you are a co-writer, of course.
Yes.
And go ahead.
It's definitely 50-50 with Colton and I. Like the whole time, if I'm writing like a certain part of the script, I'll show it to him. Like, hey, what do you think about this? If he has an idea, it's like, hey, I want to put this in the story. Where do you think this would work out? Things like that. So this is probably the first series. Like I loved working with Hernan on Prolong and Rick on Sidekick and Laura on Punk's Not Dead. But like this is the first one where we're going back and forth. And I love it when I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? He's like, I don't know if that's going to work. I'm like, cool. Good to know. Thank you. It's just nice back and forth.
Yeah. What's that dynamic been like? Like, what is the story of Kristian and Colton? How did you come together as a team? And yeah, how's that experience been for you?
I think it was after I released Prolong, because he read it. He was like, hey, I really enjoy that. And we kind of just started messaging back and forth, just kind of ideas. And he's like, yeah, I want to work on a few stories. I was like, okay, I'm almost done with Sidekick for Hire. So what do you want to work on? Because I'm looking for another thing. I have ideas, but I'm tired of just like, hey, artist, here's my idea. I want to work on something back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Colton's idea came in. He was like, well, I want to do something with like cryptids and monsters and stuff like that. And just a bunch of different weird things. I was like, all right, cool. And we went back and forth with it. And once we kind of got a general idea of what we wanted, I wrote like a mini script. Like, I think it was like 6 or 7 pages of something that's not in our story at all. I'm like, this is kind of the theme or the feel I want to go for the story. He read it. He said he really enjoyed it. I'm like, cool. Let's actually work on the real story now. So it was just, it became that way. And we only met through Twitter for a while. And then I went to C2E2 2 years ago. And I got to hang out with him, got to meet him in person for the first time. And we've just been good friends since then. I hope we're good friends. Otherwise, he hates me. So,
well, I
don't think
you're
he
making
does.
a book together. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
you're going this far together. I think you're all right.
Yeah, exactly.
You've mentioned it a few times now. For the folks out there who don't know, what are cryptids?
So cryptids are technically monsters and creatures that haven't been scientifically proven. I had to do a lot of research. I knew the basic ones like Bigfoot, Mothman, Loch Ness Monster stuff ones, but I did a little bit more research in it, and a lot of cryptids are just like creatures that can't scientifically really be proved, but there were cryptids before that were eventually proven to be real. So there's a little bit of like hidden truth in it.
Ooh.
Which I was fascinated by. And the other thing I really loved about cryptids is that there's not that much backstories. There's not many like lore or stories about them beforehand. So I got an open playing field just to do what I want. And I wasn't stuck with people being like, oh, well, the Gator Man in Jersey wouldn't do this. I was like, well, nobody knows what the Gator Man would do. So in my story, he does.
As you've mentioned, the Gator Man, the men in the sewers, or the gators in the sewers. Of all the cryptids, the monsters, the things out there that go bump in the night, why the sewer gators? And why, if I'm not mistaken, they're in Philly in this story, correct?
New Jersey.
Thank you, Jersey.
Yeah.
For someone not of the States and not well enough with New York, I'm familiar with the idea of alligators in New York's sewers.
Yeah.
Same theme or different beast here?
Similar to it. One of the things I wanted to do was stay somewhat accurate with I had a list of cryptids that I did some research on, and I sent it to Colt, and I was like, all right, here's the ones that I think we could do. Here's the ones that I don't think could play as big of a role. And I saw the Gator Man. I'm like, that's just a cool one. That's a really cool one to start off with. And I was like, okay, it takes place in New Jersey. That's where people supposedly have seen him, or Jersey City. And it just it started growing more and more. Like the original design of it was very cool, but it was almost tribalistic of how Colton originally designed it.
Oh, okay.
And then this is where the back and forth went, where I was like, well, he's in the sewers. He wouldn't be necessarily looking like he's from the Amazon forest. He's like, I got you. And he gave him like a tire shoulder blades and a necklace with a baby doll and a can for a hat. I was like, this is the best design ever. I loved it.
Awesome. I mean, it is. I'm just seeing if he's in your Kickstarter page, because again, I don't want to spoiler it.
I think he's one of the last pages on there.
Bear with me. I've got the chase, and then we go into rewards. But you know what? He's on one of your covers.
Yep.
So I will bring him up. So this is Sacramento. Roboter and the Gator Man. And then additionally, you've got another fantastic cover showing him with his little can, which I love.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've noticed in a lot of campaigns lately, and I truly believe has to do with the success of the campaigns, is alt covers. I know on Instagram you've been sort of showing off, if you got a number of, well, previously it was a number of pre-registrations of like the Notify Me on Kickstarter, you would show off a new cover.
Yeah.
How did you find people to do these covers for you? What were the limits, the rules, the boundaries that you set on them, or was it just go have fun?
Are you talking about like for people we find out, or like they themselves putting limits on the artist?
I would say that you guys as the creators put on the artists.
So we honestly, that's one of the things Colt and I did. We texted each other. We're like, all right, we need to figure out variant covers. Once we had like the main cover figured out, we're like, all right, who's the artist that we want to work on? And we all had like a list of them. And Max Bear was on his list and Robert Wilson was on my list. So Max Bear did the one right above it, the one with in the sewer area. And Max Bear is he's just one of my favorite artists. I got to meet him at C2E2 at the same time.
Oh, that's
cool.
He
has a comic, I think, called Hero Beards. And it's so funny. It's so ridiculous. And I was like, I love it. I love his design. I love his style. And so when we gave him the whole issue, and we're like, hey, just do whatever you want. And he was like, cool. And he came out with this. There was no notes from us. We're like, This is perfect. So, and I love it. It's just small Easter eggs in there too, which I love. And it's just a unique design of something that I couldn't come up with myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then same thing with Robert Wilson. Like, I love his art. I actually got to sit next to him 2 years ago at a convention. And he was one of the nicest guys in the world. I jokingly call him the dad of comics because he's pretty well known. He knows what he's doing. And he was like, all right, what are you doing? Here's things that he was like, he kind of like, here, let me show you the way. Let me help you out. Let me figure out what you're doing. And I greatly appreciate him. He was one of the top people on my list. I was like, hey, Robert, would you be interested in doing that? He was like, yeah, absolutely. And same thing. I sent him the art. And he just made this on his own.
That's so cool.
I love it. It's amazing. And here's the other thing I have to give praise for Robert. He does this creator breakfast thing, I think for like Emerald City, New York Comic Con, and C2E2, where he's like, hey, are you a new comic book creator? Apply for this, and then we can do a breakfast all together where you can possibly talk to other people in the industry while connecting with other people. So... And that's how I got to meet a few other people. Colton went there as well, so we got to have breakfast together. We already knew each other before, but I got to meet like Jeff Ryder, who's a good friend of mine now. I got to meet Maria Wolf. That was cool. So Maria Wolf is one of the nicest, coolest people I've met. So
right on. Well, you know what? For the creators out there who might see this other, like I said, now or in the future, please state again that person's name. Where you've signed up for this so that they can take advantage of it.
So you're talking about the cover artist?
Yes.
Yeah. So this one right here was done by Robert Wilson IV. He's on Instagram and Twitter. I think it's just Robert Wilson. One of the coolest guys. He's done Barbaric. He's done a comic series called Heartthrob. Love it. And then Yep. And then the other guy, Max Bear, he's I think just Max Bear on Instagram as well. But yeah, he has his own series. He does art for so many other campaigns and like board games, and I've seen him do beer cans as well. And I'm just like, God, this guy's so much fun. So
That's cool.
they're all amazing.
All right. Now you know what, Kristian, we're 21 minutes in, which is perfect. We're right at the time where I'd like to go over basically the different tiers, what people can get, that way I know what to expect, and then we can get them pledging, getting comics, and enjoying. So I see, as per I think every campaign ever has the $1 make a pledge because why not option.
Yeah, makes it more fun.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to ask, how often do you get this? Because like I said, I see it in every single campaign. I heard some people get like a couple bucks here and there. Have you ever?
Yes, and then I also get some family and friends who aren't into comics at all, and they want to support me.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, "That's really cool." I'm like, do you want to issue?" They're like, "Nah, I just want to give you money." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks." So every once in a while it works out.
Interesting. Well, you know what? I never thought of it like that. So
Yeah.
to creators out there, keep that in there, because you know what? You never know.
It's nice.
Yeah. And then, of course, all right, let's talk comics. We've got digital.
So we got the $5 digital. Basically, the comic is pretty much done with art and lettering wise. There's a few like back matter pages and a few other design stuff that we have to do. But yeah, for the most part, the digital part is completely done. So once the campaign's over and we finish that, which should only take like maybe 2 weeks, we'll be able to send that out ASAP. And it's only $5 too, and you'll be able to have, like I do through Dropbox or Google Drive, so people can download it from there and just have it. So
right on.
And it makes it available for everyone.
So basically, third week in March, they'll be able to download their book.
Yeah, I usually rank around that time.
Right on. And our next one, early bird, it's still up? Yeah, it's still up. Awesome.
Yeah. I give about 2 days after the initial launch, because I do my launches during the middle of the week, and I know people are like have school or work or other stuff. It gives people the option to get it at a more discounted price than the normal price. And that's because I was like, hey, you are backing it in the first few days. I really appreciate it. Let me give something back to you. And you'll get the physical copy along with the digital copy too. Each physical version will come with a digital copy as well.
Right on. And as we go, gotta go physical. Yep. As many of us do.
Yep. That's the normal price one.
Normal price, okay. $8, right on.
Yeah.
Or 11 for us Canadians.
Yeah. Sorry.
Hey, it's conversion. It's not your problem. And then we've got Robert Wilson's cover for the 10.
That one, a lot of the variant covers, I make sure I print out enough for everyone, but usually what I do for any comic I do that have variant covers, I only print out an X amount, and then after that, it becomes just limited and exclusive.
I dig it. So collectors out there, get on it. Go now.
Exactly.
Go.
I'm not going to make $1 million off it. I don't plan on making $1 million off of it, but I want it to be. I like that feel like, you know, I got something that not a lot of people have. This is really cool.
Yeah.
So it's a good feeling.
I dig it. You've already got 2 backers, which is great.
Same thing for Max Bears.
And that is that nice one right here. Same cost and everything. Beauty. I appreciate this is your like 5th one now. Or 6th, 5th or 6th one.
5th Kickstarter. Yeah.
Yes. Where I don't really have any around me. Knock on wood, printing goes well. When are you expecting like the printing and all that to be done?
So I've already contacted the printer. We're going to use Comics Wellspring. Like I
Nice.
said, I'm hoping the printing will be done about mid-March. Because like I said, everything in the comic is done. That way I can send it out beginning of April because I'm getting married in the middle of April.
Oh,
And that's
congrats.
Also, yeah, thank you. That's going to take up a lot of my time as well. So I want to get those shipped out beforehand.
Fair. Okay, good to know. You're going to be busy in April. Oh my god.
I'm busy now. It's just now till through April.
Oh god. Oh, and we have an All-Star bundle. What's in the All-Star bundle?
So the All-Star digital bundle comes with the first issue of We Call the Myths. It also comes with a version of Prolong, version of my other comic, Sidekick for Hire, and then a digital version of Starburn and For the Money by Colton. So you everyone gets to not only read the work that Colton and I made together, but you get to see the work that we did before we started making comics together.
Fantastic. I think that'll be the one to go for readers new to either yourself or Colton.
Yeah.
Get this one. This one's cool.
You're trying to make sure it's worth. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say
take up a lot of space.
Yeah, 25 US, 34 Canadian. You get 5 books out of the deal. That's fantastic. And I'm assuming, is the plan to release these all together at the same time in Dropbox, or will people be able to get the first 4 like now and then, or not now, but at the end of the campaign?
I'll probably do them all together at once in Dropbox. That way I don't forget who I'm missing out on and who like got this one, but didn't get, like, it gets a little confusing after a while. So I like to just put it all together and list off the people and just send it all at once with different Dropbox links.
For sure. All right.
Bam.
And of course we have early birds for all the covers.
Yep. You get the main cover and the 2 variant covers for $25 US or $34 Canada. And then, that's at a discounted price. So it's basically $5 for the first issue and then the same price for the variants.
Nice. Awesome. All myth covers? Oh,
Yep.
just not the early bird version.
Correct.
Right on. And that'll be the 28th, so for later on. So folks, get in on this now.
Mm-hmm.
And then all gone? Oh, someone's already jumped on these.
Yeah, we already had 5. I'll give you a little insider too, so people can listen to this and find out. We're gonna open up 5 more. Colton was like, "Well, they're already sold out," and I can make 5 more of them. So we're gonna do that on Saturday.
This Saturday, awesome.
Yeah. So we're gonna open up to 5 more people.
Awesome. You know what, Kristian? I need to step away for a brief second. Can you let people know about sort of what has been your favorite part about making this book so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
So
I'll be right back.
yeah, I think my favorite part of the book so far is honestly the people that I'm just working with on it. It's like I said before to Konrad, it's been super fun. I enjoy like talking with Colton, Hank, and DC about all of it, but it's just a nice back and forth, and we make each other laugh. The Gator Man, like the original design was for him to be green, and then Hank was like, what if we made him purple? So that's the collaboration part. If you could ever find somebody that you want to work with and it actually feels like back and forth collaboration, that's going to be the most magical thing. You want people that aren't afraid to say no to your dumb ideas or say yes to your dumb but fun ideas. That's always been the best. And then same thing, like I think Colton and I, like, we've been texting like every other day, and it's so much. I love it. It's fun, but I think my fiance joked around about how it feels like I'm marrying him and not her, just because how often I talk to him. But it's been good. It's been a good time. So, and we're having fun. We're gonna make it a multiple series thing. We already have it planned out for the 4-issue arc. If it does go further, cool. If not, we'll probably still make it further anyways, just because we're having fun with it. But yeah, it's been a really good time. Honestly, making comics has been some of the best times of my life. So, and I'm not going to stop doing it. I don't make that much money from it, unless I do conventions and go work 60 hours a week on it. But it's been a good time overall. I would recommend it to anyone. Try it out once. Do something small though. Don't start with your 120-page comic. Start with an 8-page or 20 pages is good. Like Prolong. Start with a 20-page one. That's gonna be your best bet. So, by the way, look up cryptids. They're really cool. They're weird, but they're really cool. So, I hope you guys enjoy me rambling. I'm going to keep doing this for a little while until Konrad's back. I'm having fun with it. I hope you're having fun too. But yeah, The United States of Cryptids. Read that book. That was one that I researched, showed a lot. Got to learn a little bit more about the cryptids around the U.S. and even some of the lesser known ones. Not like Bigfoot or Mothman, but the Snarly Owl, which is basically a ghost dog. Love it. The Loveland Frog, which is just frog people. This is fun. It's good times all around. Plus, people love cryptids. Whether they know it or not, they love them. So, it's going to be a fun time. We're going to have a blast. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we're enjoying making it. I mean, I'm not going to stop anytime soon. So, I love weird stuff so much that I have this sweater that says, "We come in peace," which is, on the back is just a cowboy that's just being abducted by an alien. So, but yeah, I want to tell so many people about this comic or everything that's going on, but it spoils the fun for everyone. And that's not something I really want to do. I want people to enjoy the story for what it is. That's the most important part. That people just enjoy and have fun. So, but yeah, what else should I talk about the comic? Be nice to people. That's always a good idea. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to do this by yourself. Konrad's impressive.
I am not impressive.
Look at that.
My apologies there, Kristian.
I wasn't. No, you're all good. I wasn't rambling.
Perfect. No, you know what? It is a talent to be able to talk in front of people for any extended period of time. I'm not really that good at it. If anyone's caught a live stream of mine where it's just me, they'll know.
It's difficult. I've gotten practice at conventions, but I forget you have to kind of keep talking the whole time. It's nice to have back and forth.
Yes, well, I mean that's what makes this easy, especially when I get to talk about great comics like this one that's made me cry. So I guess, Kristian, one thing I wanted to ask, and it's obscure and it's definitely a part of the comic, but I've seen it come up a lot in pop culture, and as someone who doesn't know a lot about monsters, because I'm not a big horror person, what's up with Mothman? Why is he in everything, and why is his butt so delicious?
Mothman's an interesting character, mostly because he's technically a bad guy. If you look up the story of him, there was this whole bridge that collapsed in, I forget which state. It was Point Pleasant, West Virginia. That was it.
Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Exactly.
Yeah. And I did my research. I told you. But yeah, people blamed him for it. But it's weird. Half the people think he's a misunderstood, adorable creature. And then the other half believe he's just straight up monster. So it's a weird what's it called? A cult popular thing with Mothman.
Yeah.
So,
this is horrifying.
Yeah. Right? It's terrifying.
But at the same time, The one I'm now used to seeing that I think most people, when I say Mothman, will know is like, oh god,
I've seen like online comics of people having Hellboy hang out with Mothman.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
like and I can't find it right now apparently, but I've seen so many tattoos, drawings, illustrations of this character, but as like a 6-foot dude with all black fur, the moth face, jacked, and then in like leather BDSM gear with a crop and just like the juiciest butt on the internet.
Yeah, internet's weird.
Yeah.
To say the least. Like, there's a statue for Mothman, and he is bulky. Yeah.
Okay, let me take that off of there. Because the statue, but like, he's jacked.
Yeah, he's massive. So it's even like Mothman, like he has a lot of story with him. Like I think he's one of the few actual creatures that have a history and have like a big chunk of like lore that goes with him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not that much. It's just like he shows up, he scared a few people, and then a few months later a bridge collapsed and dozens of people died. And
so wait, he didn't even show up and then the bridge collapsed right away. It was like a couple months later.
Yeah, he was like terrorizing people around the town, and then it happened.
Interesting. That's weird. So, okay, so one thing I asked Dan Price, who writes Bigfoot Knows Karate, who's writing...
Met him last year.
Oh, wonderful. So one, Dan Price, cool guy, can't speak well enough about him, fun books. He also is, well, his is obviously about Bigfoot, but another cryptid, another one of these monsters who we all know the name of. We've seen that blurry picture. And I asked him, and I would like to ask you, and maybe you've got a new spin on it, especially because you've worked with somebody else, but what's it sort of like being able to use a character like that who has such a minimal backstory, or like the Gators in Jersey, to be able to do your own thing, and then what's it like doing that with a partner?
It's honestly like once you wrap your head around like, oh, there's no real boundaries. Like that's the thing with a lot of like Marvel and DC characters. Like they have a certain history and they have to stay in canon. You can only do so much, and so on and so forth. One of my favorite writers, it's Paul Jenkins. He did Inhumans, like back in like early 2000, like from the Marvel Knights era. I talked to him a few times, and one of the things he talked about with Inhumans was like there wasn't that much story about them. Like there was some stuff from Jack Kirby, but he only read like a few issues. He's like, all right, cool, that's all I really want to know. And then he had like freedom to do whatever, and people were like, oh, that's cool, like where'd you hear about that? He's like, nah, I just made it up. And I was like, that's such a cool thing. I like once you grasp your head around like, oh, I could just make it up. Yeah. Like instead of trying to please certain people about it, I'm like, oh, this is the way this character's supposed to react. This is the way this character's supposed to be. You're just like, okay, kind of keeping the general essence of them, but you have so much. It's like Play-Doh. You know what it is. You know what's inside of it. It's just more Play-Doh, but you can make it look like anything.
Interesting. Okay, I like that take. And so, for yourself, that's kind of what it's been like. You get to just do your thing.
Like there in our header image, I have a jackrabbit in it. And
yes, let me get up to that.
He shows up later on in the issue. I didn't want to show off too much of him.
No, he's great though.
He's fun. Yeah, that was the other thing. We're like, okay, cool. It's very easy to make a rabbit like, oh, the cutesy character and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, all we know is about rabbits or jackrabbits that they have horns and they're fast. Cool. That means I could do whatever else I want with it. And we had fun. We had somebody who would just hate Sacramento and Roscoe. That was the goal. It's like he needs their help, but he hates their guts.
And I mean, rightly so. It's not like they're the most personable beings ever.
Yeah, but it was a lot of freedom. There wasn't like any like, oh, this is the way the character or like these creatures react. It was just so much freedom.
To just whatever. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Now, what's it like writing protagonists that, as we've mentioned, are not great people, are not necessarily in any way communicative, kind, whatever you want to call it? What's that been like for you? Because all of your other characters, to my knowledge so far, like your protagonists, have been like decent people.
For the most part, I would say Leo and Sidekick for Hire is probably the least decent. It's difficult because like people are so different. People react different ways. We don't know exactly what their whole history is, but we connect with people who like still want to do good, and like there's like for this story, even like in the preview, you could tell that Sacramento just wants to do a good job. And like there's a small part in there where Roscoe asks him, he's like, hey, which creature are we hunting right now? He's like, no, we're not hunting, we're searching for him.
Yes.
And it's like that small thing is like, these are the rules, these are living beings as well that we're also tasked to help. It's like, okay, so he's a good person. That's the way I felt about it. He might just be not very like personable, but he still wants to do the right thing, and it's a hard balance. I'm trying to, whenever I write characters, I try to think of like, okay, how can myself or any other reader or even Colton be like, how do I connect with this character? What do I like about this character? And then once I figure out what a good thing to be like, okay, that's a hook of how to get connected, then it's time to fill out the rest of the spaces. Like, is this guy knowledgeable? Is he just a dummy, or is he funny? Is he doing wisecracks, or is he just like always serious and just put in crappy situations? So it was a weird balance. And once we figured out like the rules for the characters, it made it a lot easier.
And then you can just go.
Yeah. Like, whenever you're right, like if I had Sacramento like suddenly make like a funny joke, it would feel off in the story. If I had Roscoe suddenly be like a super badass and be like, yeah, we're going to go take down these guys, it would feel off. It just, these characters kind of like grew into themselves. I know that's like a generic answer that a lot of writers and creators give, but once you establish like certain rules with them of like what they are, how they react to other people, then they kind of like, oh, this is how they would react, not how I would react. And that's something that I've learned just writing more characters. I think like starting out with, I definitely put a lot of myself in the stories, but as I've evolved and hopefully a better writer, it doesn't just sound like me. It sounds like these characters.
Yeah.
That's what was important to me.
I like that. Well, good for you to be able to catch that in yourself and to push yourself to that.
Thank you.
I also definitely think what you sort of mentioned about the characters, once you understand their rules, they kind of do things on their own. A quote that I love from one of my favorite fantasy authors, R.A. Salvatore, who created famously Drizzt.
Yes, love that series.
So good. There's a quote of him out there. Someone asked him, like, how do you write this character so well and thoroughly like keep him basically consistent, even though he's adapting and changing and, you know, growing. And Salvatore at one of these, I don't know if it was a convention or a book showing or whatever, he basically turned around. He was like, well, I don't really write the characters. It's more like I'm sitting at my computer and the characters are telling me what's happening. And he's like, and my wife has actually even walked in, and apparently I've been at my computer typing and giggling at whatever they were telling him. And I'm like, interesting. Like, just you have such a strong concept of a character, right? Especially in his case, after 6 now books. It's fascinating. So
it's a weird balance too. Like whenever you're making all this, like with characters, there are parts in the story where I'm like, oh, I want this to happen in the story. And then as I'm writing it, I'm like, well, these characters wouldn't do this. This is what the characters would do. And so I had to change it up to make it make sense. And then certain scenes that I was like, well, that goes out of the story because now it becomes a character-driven story rather than a plot-driven story, which I like better. Like some of my favorite stories, comics, books are all character-driven.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I mean, I think there's something more. I don't know if this is true, and I'm sure some literary person out there who maybe sees this clip eventually is like, no, that's wrong. But like for me, for me, what I find is if something is plot driven, it'll become a really good, or it has the potential to become a really good commentary on like society or a particular system or a thing or a concept. Whereas like a character driven story, you can do a lot and talk about like the growth, the character's emotions, and a more personal story, which I know you to do very well. So, you know,
those are the things that I connect with the most. Like, if I think of the shows that I've watched, like in the past few years, that one show I keep rewatching, Breaking Bad. Like, love it. I've talked to people about it all the time because the perfect like character development show where the last episode and the first episode, the characters are not the same at all. It just feels like two very different ones. But it was character driven, not plot driven. That's my issue with the last season of Game of Thrones, where I've told people I feel like everything that's happened in it was supposed to happen, but it just felt too quick. Like it just felt like, oh, here's a point, here's a plot, here's a plot. I would have liked it extended a few more seasons. I understand they didn't want to keep working on it. I get it. Yeah. And it would have felt more natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
no, you're right. No, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I definitely remember my partner and I and our friend who was watching it with us, we finished that last season, and we all sort of looked at each other and we were like, that needs to be like 3 seasons total.
Yeah.
Because Daenerys's turn from like freedom fighting, gracious empire builder to like tyrant was real quick, and it was like,
yeah. Well, like they
they
put like small Easter eggs, or not Easter eggs. They put like hints that was going to happen before she even went into like Westeros area.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
In the past seasons.
Yeah,
and then,
like
but all of a and like all of a sudden she's like mad at Jon Snow. And it's like, okay, and now she's killing everyone in town. I was like, well, there's something we're missing in the middle here.
Just a bit.
Yeah. So, but I think everything should have happened like that, but just extended a little bit more.
And yeah, I think that's the consensus a lot of fans of that show will have. That being said, Kristian, we're not here to talk about Game of Thrones, which is
we're talking about.
Yeah, we're here to talk about we call the myths. Now I'm gonna bring this back up because amazingly, you are a little bit of point of pride. Did we get any new ones?
Yeah, I think I got one more. Look at that.
Hey, I'll take it.
So.
Wow. Just brain fart.
No worries.
It just left my brain.
I will say this about the story too, about We Call the Myth. One of the things that I tried doing with the characters, because I play D&D every once in a while with my friends. I'm usually the DM. As a comic book writer, you're kind of just, well, you write, so you can do the DM part. So it just naturally happens. The way I write the D&D story similar to how I write story scripts, in a way where this is what's happening with the world. Here's what the antagonists are doing. Like, this is what they want to do. If they didn't have anyone to stop them, here's everything they would do. And then in D&D, I would just have the players go in and they would ruin everything, or they would do something that would just like stop everyone. And I'd be like, okay, well, I know how these antagonists would react, or how they would want to be. Would they want revenge, or would they try to find another way around? That's similar to how I was writing this, except I'm also the players in this one, or like Sacramento and Roscoe are the players. So I'm like,
Yeah.
this is what they would do. Here's how the bad guy would react. Here's how the antagonist would react. And that was been more of a fun way of being like, okay, this feels more character driven rather than just plot driven. That's a other point that I was trying to figure out how to connect it with Game of Thrones. Like, yeah, that's what I was trying to talk about.
No, 100%. And I think that's continuously, like, through everything I've read of yours, one thing I think you do so well is you do character driven, and as a result of that, all of your characters feel more understandable, more human. And as we've mentioned, like Roscoe, or not Roscoe, Roscoe I think is interesting. Sacramento, definitely not a likable person, but a good person. And I think that makes you root for him. So Kristian, we are at like 51 minutes. We're coming to the end. Really quick for the folks out there, could you recap how much would a digital version of your book run them? How much would a physical version of your book run them?
Yep. So a digital version is $5 in US currency right now. A physical version would be $6 plus shipping, which shipping is about $5 till Friday evening. And then after that, it goes up to $8 plus shipping. So you get a few dollars discount. Plus, I realized as I was looking at it today, I was like, oh, I never put in the thing that we're going to give people stickers, because Colton's putting in like some fun design stickers. Like he has one that just says, birds aren't real.
I love that, by the way.
That's one of my favorite conspiracies. I think that's just great.
Yeah, it's so interesting and weird. Like, how did you get to this? But okay.
Yeah,
it's the chemtrails.
When we were doing research for the book as well, just kind of, and by research I was like learning more about cryptids, myths. One of the other things I was like, okay, let me look up conspiracies. And like, there are some cool ones. There's some really funny ones that I enjoy. And then there's some like dark ones where I'm like, I don't want to go around this area. Like, I don't want to get near any of that. So I had to be very picky on one of them. And one of them was just like, oh, birds aren't real. They're drones or something. And he's like, that's funny. I think that's actually like, that's ridiculous. But also I'm like, well, and I started looking outside. I'm like, is it ridiculous?
Is it? I don't know. I've seen some things online about it, and I'm like, that paranoid part of my brain is like, could it be real?
Yeah. It's that little part. That's what intrigues me. But I also want to make sure it's still fun. That's the important part for it.
Absolutely. Well, Kristian, I want to say absolutely thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show tonight, man.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. It's always a blast.
Hell yeah. And for the folks out there, go get the book. Links in the doobly-doo. $5. Do it up.
Yeah.
And Kristian, is there anything that you want the people to know?
That I definitely, it's obvious, but I couldn't do it without Colton or Hank, the colorist, DC, the letterer, which they all brought their own spin on things, which complemented, if not improved it significantly. It's, oh my God. Like while you were gone, I was talking about how like just finding collaboration with everyone. It's just a beautiful thing. Like this is the first one where they were like, hey, what do you think about doing this? I'll be like, cool. Or if I didn't like it, they'd be like, all right, no worries. It'd just be that back and forth of being like, if I don't like something, I have to give a reason why.
Yeah.
And same thing. If they didn't like something I did, they would give me a reason. I'd be like, cool, makes sense. And it's just having that understanding.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. Just everyone that I've gotten to work with and just talk to and share this comic with, it's just been awesome. And it's my favorite right now. Like I know it's like obviously it would be my favorite right now, but like this is amazing. This is just one of the most fun. It's like Colton's working on the second issue right now, just because we're so excited about it.
That's fantastic to hear, man.
Yeah.
Well,
that's cool.
Absolutely. Like I said, folks, go get it. Kristian, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'll see you guys around.
See you next time.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day. Yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find